Okay, I'm in my leopard vest. I mean business today because I'm sharing with you 17 skills that you have got to know by the time you graduate high school. These are 17 skills that across the board need to be understood for somebody to be able to springboard from high school into a normal, successful, I'm gonna go live my life, type of person and type of life. So let's talk about these 17 skills that you need before you graduate high school. Okay, so one of the very first ones that I'm gonna tell you, and it's not gonna surprise you, is basic finances. Now, I've done so many videos on how to set budgets as a teen, basic finances as teens, so check those out because I go into detail of what you need to know. But because I had a very solid understanding of finances, that I would say because I liked money and I liked how it all worked, I knew it better than most teens. I was able to graduate high school, buy a car, pay for college right out of my pocket, and graduate college debt free. And I also, by the time I graduated college, bought my home. So 2 years after high school, I owned a house. So learn some basic finances and you can really jumpstart your life. The second tip for you is to make sure that you've got your basic socializing skills down. These are things like how to introduce yourself, how to talk to people, how to talk to superiors, how to talk to people who are beneath you, how to, interact with people that you don't know. Because as soon as you leave high school, this really protective social bubble that, oh, I know them, or I've heard of them, or I've seen them before, tends to go away. And we enter real life where you go to a job or your first time at college class and you don't know a single soul. So be sure that you know those basics of socializing. And of course, I've got you covered on my channel. So check out some of my videos on confidence, popularity, how to talk to people, because you want to be sure that you can feel really confident with your own ability to socialize, put into any environment, because that's what the real world is like. This one is huge and only gets more important as technology advances and time goes on. And that is to learn to communicate via email. And I would throw in here text or social media. Our world is so digital that if you don't know how to format an email, format one informally and format one properly, like if you were to send to a boss or a teacher, then that is a major skill that you've got to figure out by the time you leave high school, because it's not really something somebody's going to sit down and teach you, but it's something that you should look up videos on. It's something that you should look at what your teacher emails you back and say, okay, this is the basics of an email. I'd even say with text communication, learning the nuances of if I put a period here in my text, it means something different. So if I'm to text my hubby, okay, and I put a period, that probably means I'm upset or I'm not happy with whatever I'm okay about, right? But if I put an exclamation mark, I'm totally cool with that, or a smiley face, so start to learn how to communicate via a digital world, because that's what we live in. And I'm telling you, at my corporate jobs, 90% of my day was spent emailing, 95%. So be sure that you've got those basics down. And also, huge one on the adulting skills, know how to get yourself places. So many teens graduate high school without a driver's license. And it just blows my mind, because I understand that not all of us get cars in high school, not all of us drive to where we need to go, but you are a massive liability if you don't know how to drive, because pretend your friend was in danger and you had to get him to the hospital, right? Pretend that you needed to get somewhere or have to do something and you literally can't because you don't know how to drive or you don't have the legal clearance to drive. So I know that one's going way back to the basics, but I hope it calls some of you out that aren't driving regularly, who are afraid to drive. Just know how to get yourself to places. And whether that's, I know how to drive and I know how to get on a bus and to figure out where I am, be sure you've got just a general sense of direction and how to get around even in just your little town. This is a skill that I think most adults struggle with. So if you can master it out of high school, you're just that much further ahead. and it's how to organize your time. So be sure that by the time you leave high school, this perfect environment of having deadlines and responsibilities and places you have to be at certain times, be sure that you recognize that system and find out how it works for you, and that you use that in other areas of your life, because it's this great testing grounds for, okay, how do I organize my life? How do I make sure I get my homework in and time to date and time to hang out with my friends? That's a life skill, my friends, and it's something that you should know how to do by the time you graduate high school. Also, big one, you need to know how to get a job by the time you graduate high school. And you're like, but Abbi, I'm not getting a job out of high school. I'm going to college, right? Or I got a job because I know somebody, right? I'm just talking basics, like know how to format a resume, know how to talk to somebody who is in a position to offer you a job, know how to interview at a job. Even if it is a basic level out of high school job or in high school job of, working at your local pool or lifeguarding or, being at the fast food restaurant, have those experiences that teach you like, okay, this is how to talk about myself. This is how that I can tell them I'm skilled for this or what I qualify for, because that's a lifelong skill. Your whole life, you are going to be vying for different jobs at different points in your life. And even if you become, a homemaker or your own boss, you still are using those skills every single day to sell yourself to other people, to sell yourself to the people at the grocery store, right? So you constantly want to be working on these skills of, I know how to talk about my skills, my talents, my assets, and I also know what value I bring to the marketplace, even if that value right now is for $7.25 an hour, right? Because we just work up that scale. But when you leave high school, make sure you have enough skill in those areas that you could get a job if you had to. Okay, another skill that you need by the time you graduate high school is the skill to disagree with somebody respectfully. Now, I think high school is the most amazing time to learn this, because you're transitioning from being a kid where people say, oh, they're upset, it's okay, it doesn't matter, to now you're becoming a young adult, and your actions, your words, what you say to people, how you react with them matters and leaves a lasting impression. And we can't really brush it off as easily just saying, oh, I was a kid, or I didn't know what I was saying, even though we still do that, right? But learn how to state your arguments respectfully, learn how to manage the tone of your voice. I would try this out with your parents. I really struggled in high school with understanding how the tone of my voice affected a conversation. So I'd be like, Mom, like blah, 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 blah. And she'd be like, hey, like, whoa, if you want to fight about this, let's fight about this. But like, I don't want that tone of voice and you're so upset. And I'd come back and be like, I'm not that upset. Like, why would you think I was that upset? And it's all in your tone of voice is a huge part of this. So this is a great time to figure that out. Also, a great time to figure out right now is how to manage a heavy workload. While I know that high school can be extremely challenging and difficult on so many levels, on the social level, on the emotional level, on the actual like academic level of it, life just has a tendency to level up. We just continue to progress and work up these stairs. And so your workload is going to increase throughout your life. And that's a great thing. It really is. So be sure that you know how to manage that. And right now is the most perfect time, because you can literally work on your homework and say, okay, how do I manage this workload? How do I manage stress when I have 3 tests due the same day? Those are actually lifelong skills and muscles that you are flexing that you're going to use later in your life when your boss asks you, there's too many S's in that. When your boss asks you for like a report before the end of the day, or, your job is on the line, or, you're kind of in a bad situation with their relationship. Like, you've got to know how to manage that workload and manage that stress successfully. And now's the time to figure that out. Okay, I love this one. Ask someone on a date. You need to know how to ask somebody on a date. And I don't mean you need to know how to ask somebody via promposal or leaving a note on their doorstep or texting them. No, you legitimately need to know, guy and girl, Like, how do I ask somebody on a date? So young men, you need to know like the formal process of how do I ask a lady on a date. And young women, you need to know too of like, how do I initiate a date and how do I talk to a young man, you know, and express to him that I'd like to take him out or go with him somewhere. And also like how to reject dates on both sides of that. Because the next thing that you need to know before you graduate high school is how to be a good date. This is one of the reasons that I actually believe that dating in high school is such an incredible experience and a valuable experience, because contrary to your belief, contrary to popular belief, you're not looking for a spouse in high school. You're not looking for the love of your life or your soulmate. You're learning how to date. And so use this time, whether you date a little bit or a lot, to learn how to be a good date. And so young men, learn what it's like to drive respectfully, to knock on her door, to meet her parents, to communicate to her what you're gonna do on your date and how you end that date, right? Young women, you know, you've gotta learn how to like be a good date and be focused and attentive, and how to show them you're interested, how to show them that maybe you're just friends. Like, you've gotta learn all these nuances, and high school is the most perfect time in the whole world to figure that out, because there's no pressure. Right now is to figure out, how do I date? Who do I like to date? What do I like about a date? What do I not like about, you know, a person? And what am I looking for in somebody that I want to spend, you know, my whole life with? So learn how to ask somebody on a date and learn how to be a good date. Okay, this tip I felt personally called out by, but I've got to share it with you, and that's spelling. So by the time you graduate high school, make sure that you've got your basic spelling down. And honestly, we live in such an awesome day and age where we have spell checker and our texting automatically corrects. Like, so just look at those, be aware of those, and be sure to like that you know the difference between all the different theirs and ours and just like all these little nuances, because people are going to judge you by that. And so you just want to have that basic level. Now, you know, especially if you watch some of my videos, I'm not the greatest speller that there is in the whole world. I know that, and so I rely more heavily on some of those tools like spell checker and my Grammarly, right? But just be sure that you do know your basic spelling. And I've added to that, your next skill is grammar. It's harsh. It's the way the world is. People are gonna judge you by the way you speak and the way you write, especially in our digital world with texting and social posts and emails. So be sure that you get those right. And I'm here to admit to you that I wish I knew those better by the time I graduated high school, because yeah, I knew them. I was amazing at English. I was an English Sterling Scholar, which is super funny. But I hated spelling so much that I was just like, ugh, it's not my thing. And I kind of blew it off. And now I'm realizing that that was really important. And that wasn't really something to blow off. So I'm cautioning you now to make sure you know your spelling and grammar by the time you graduate high school. Okay, another skill that you've got to figure out by the time you graduate high school is basic car and home tools. Now, I mean basic. Do not freak out. Like basic. Like, do you know how to put gas in a car? Do you know what the different lights on a car mean that say your engine's about to blow up or like your blinker is on? Like, just know the basics of a car and like when to call the mechanic or when to call your dad and when it's totally fine. Like, that's what I mean by basics. And same with house stuff of like, just know, oh, this is a hammer, this is a screwdriver. And I'm being a little bit funny, but genuinely make sure that you're acquainted with those things, because there's gonna come a time in your life really soon, especially if you go off to college on your own, that you're gonna need to know some of these things, and you just don't want it to have it hit you cold when you're kind of on your own. Let's have it hit us when we have our mom and dad to show us, when we have our shop teacher to show us. So be sure that you just know the very, very basics of like some home care and some car care. Another skill is healthcare. And healthcare, I was just kind of talking more generally on this one, but know some basics about your healthcare and also like what to do in a healthcare emergency. So do you have emergency numbers saved to your phone, such as like the police, obviously you don't need to save 911, but like the local police and like your doctor's number, the hospital's number, those things should be saved in your phone. You should also know like who is my primary care doctor, who is my insurance, like through my parents, and like kind of just the basics of like, oh, this is something I should go to the doctor about, and maybe this is something I shouldn't. Even the basics of like, hey, I have a headache. These are the medications that are okay for me to take, or I personally react to this one, or I don't react to this one. Those are things that you should really start to figure out by the time you're graduating high school. And I know that can feel like a lot. It totally can, but it's as simple as saying like, hey, if I had to take care of me and my mom wasn't there that I could call her, do I know which medication to take for a headache? Okay, this one, you're gonna say, Abby, like I'm calling you out, but you should have legible handwriting by the time you graduate high school. Now, I will confess to you that by the time I graduated high school, I have the most like gorgeous, like kind of calligraphic, is that a word? Handwriting, because I'd really worked on it. And I still like, I'm not even that old, but like I still would write notes and papers, and we didn't have our fancy laptops that we took to class, like you guys probably do. But since then, I type so much and I text so much, and so much of my communication is like on a computer that I've really watched my handwriting go down and down and down and down. But here's the thing that I keep coming back to is if I had to leave a note, a sticky note, I know somebody could read it. If I had to, I write my notes for you guys, and sometimes it's a little all over the place, but if I really wanted to focus and if I really wanted, to put it out there, my handwriting's legible on an everyday level, and then I can make it look super nice for things like cards and love notes to my hubby, right? So be sure that by the time you graduate high school, you have legible handwriting. And I'm dead serious about this one. So ask yourself, like, where's my handwriting? Because that's not going away anytime soon. I know that we're in a very digital world and we type, but you are always going to need to write something and have somebody be able to read it. On that same note is basic cooking skills, because this is one that people are like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I can cook myself some top ramen. And I'm sure you can, but do you have enough cooking skills that you can cook, like, I'd say 1 to 3 meals? Like, I'm not asking you to be a professional chef. I'm not asking you to be, write in calligraphy. I'm just saying that when you're on your own and when like you're basically an adult by 18, when you graduate high school, like, do you know how to cook a nice meal? Like, if you were to bring a friend over and really want to impress them, or your crush, like, could you cook them a fairly decent meal? Doesn't have to be hard, but like, do you know how to do some of these basic things? Because you don't want to add that to your learning curve of college. You don't want to add that to your learning curve of adulthood as soon as you graduate high school. You want to ease into that. And one way to do that is just say, hey, and I'll admit that I didn't know a ton of recipes because my mom and dad were great cooks. But I knew the basics of cooking, because I knew how to chop stuff safely. I knew how to, store and handle food because I worked at restaurants. And so if I needed to, I could totally, pull out these meals. And that's all I'm really saying that you need, is just the ability to know, like, how do I do the basics of cooking so that I can cook healthy, enjoyable meals for myself? Okay, tip 17, know how to do a good job. Yes, that is one on my list, because so many teenagers, they come to me, they DM me, they want coaching. And as we talk, we realize that one of the things that they missed, like figuring out and learning, was what constitutes a good job, what constitutes like a hard day's work, and what constitutes their best effort. And honestly, that's something that only you can define. Sometimes it's defined for us when it comes to like a job and there's certain expectations, but can you trust yourself to do a good job? Can you trust yourself to get a job done and to rise up to somebody's expectations for you, and to rise up to your own expectations for you? This is something where you really got to dig deep. You really got to learn this by doing things all the time and learning basically the simple like basics of like okay, I can clean a bathroom fast, but I can clean a bathroom right. And just knowing that difference and just knowing like, this is what my best effort looks like. And this is what me just kind of like throwing stuff together looks like, because that requires a high level of self-awareness, and that's something that's totally capable for you by the time you graduate high school. Okay, there you have it. Those are 17 skills that you should know how to do by the time you graduate high school. Which one of these skills really hit you? Which one of these really surprised you? Leave it for me down below, and I hope that you like and subscribe to this video. And if you liked this video, I think you're gonna like some of my other videos that break down like how to do these skills on a deeper level. So like check out a video like this on like basic teenager finances. It's really gonna help you like take that next step in your life. And so I'm wishing you the best of luck. I hope that there's some skills that you walked away with today and that you're gonna work on and that you're gonna improve, because these are genuinely like skills that I believe will change your life, and every adult should know how to do. And since you're on that journey, let's get to it. So can't thank you enough for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Abbi J out.